Welcome to the 27th episode of the Decentralized Opportunity podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Lytle, here with your other host.
Wyatt Carson, hello.
Hello, hello.
Man, I feel like we were just here. No, so I didn't even tell you yet, Tanner, but I booked our next interview.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. You know who it is. Our audience, they'll figure it out. It's gonna be a fun one. This is a very vibrant, bright personality that will be interviewing here shortly. So, but in the meantime, what's on your mind, Tanner?
Yeah, so just recently, been thinking a lot more around learning. As you know, I'm kind of a crazy person when it comes to reading. Usually go through about 2 books a week. I'm also one of those special people who has a special or created a Notion database of all the books that I read so I can have notes and indexes and authors and keep track of everything. I recently watched Fight Club, and it kind of reminds me of the guy in their old abandoned house who had all the journals, like I am Jack Spleen or different things. It's kind of me with my reading a little bit. But,
Have you ever seen a love song for Bobby Long?
I haven't. What's that one about?
Ooh. It is about a famous author who turned into an educator who kind of got deep into just kind of wallowing. And long story short, I'm not saying you're deep in wallowing. I'm saying that the individual was a very passionate person about books and just grew up in New Orleans, surrounded by books, writing books. And you're a bit of a what's the word? A bibliophile. I say nerd, you say bibliophile. What? Sorry, I'm digressing. Go ahead, Tanner.
No, you're good. Well, we've been talking about AI, and our last video actually did really well talking about that subject, and it seems like people are really interested in it. And so it got me thinking, I read all these books, I take all these notes, I do all these things. How can I use AI tools and things like that to, one, make what I read actually I retain it better, increase my retention, be able to look up and recall things better, and just get better usefulness out of what I consume. Because past, just reading a bunch and never using it, well, that's really just like mental masturbation. It's not really like of any point. So might as well use what I consume. So I've been kind of working on some tools. I'd be interested in seeing if you use anything in these in your life right now, because I know you've been doing a lot of AI work in your job and trying to use it to expand your tools and your knowledge base. So just a couple of things that I figured we'd talk about. What are your thoughts on that?
Love it. Education is a it's a pride point of mine. I love learning. I do not read as much as you, Tanner, but I do love learning, and will try and absorb that information wherever I can. So absolutely, you're right. I have been dealing with AI a lot in my career, my job lately, and it has led down some interesting paths that I've had to get up to speed with. And let me preface an episode on education, specifically geared around new technology and AI, by stating there's not a good source of education for AI right now because it's so new. People are trying. I'm seeing things pop up about educational around it, but it's just hard to believe anything right now. So what are you seeing?
Well, every site that's actually created to be an AI academy is all written by AI. So it's all the same stuff. The biggest thing I've been getting, so yeah, I guess just to start on where I'm getting my information right now, every morning, it's probably not the most healthy thing to do, but I start scouring Twitter. And Wyatt knows this because I start sending him links on things that I find very interesting. But there are these people on the bleeding edge that are just spending all their time learning these new systems because, again, it is so new. It reminds me, this is showing again my background and how much of a nerd I am, but when the game store days, when a new game would come out, everyone was just learning the rules. No one had it figured out, understanding the long intricacies, and there's something that's called like a meta that gets kind of created around, especially in card games like Magic or different things like that. People would figure out what are the best strategies and the best compositions and all those things, and then everyone kind of fits their decks into the slots. Those main things, and then there's little things that kind of spawn off that. Well, in this meta of AI, there is no meta. Everything's so free flowing, everything's so changing. So everyone's just trying to figure it out. If you'd ask anybody what's the best way to write a prompt in ChatGPT, they don't know. Or a big one right now, I'm really deep into Midjourney, and we're finding that you need to be a certain level of verbose, but if you're too verbose, the algorithm or the AI system just drops words randomly. So it'll just stop paying attention to what you're saying. So there's certain limitations and things we're just trying to figure out. So you have to be malleable, which is really kind of interesting. And you have to not hold any belief concretely when it comes to these, because not only can they change it on you, but what you thought might be true might actually be a very ineffective way of doing it. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think that was really well said about being flexible with your values and beliefs about it. We talked about last week. Love it, hate it, scared of it, excited for it, doesn't matter, because it's here and it's only going to get bigger and more ingrained in our life. Um, that's not to say suck it up. It's going to suck. What I'm trying to get across last week was now's the time to learn about it. The best way to overcome a fear and anxiety is to learn more about it, to dig deep into that. And you're absolutely right. Both you and I, over the last couple months that we've been really talking about AI, even privately between ourselves, both you and I have gone from each end of the spectrum to, oh my gosh, Skynet's going to come and kill us, to this is the future, and somewhere in between there. And being malleable has allowed both you and I to be really experimental with it and to learn a lot about it. So I think that was really well said. And I agree, Twitter right now seems to be one of the best sources for new things. But I don't know. I'm the kind of guy who will go look online for like a course. I'm a course guy. I like taking online courses. I like Udemy. I like LinkedIn Learning. I love those things. And they don't exist in AI, and they can't exist. If I found one, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, well, it's evolving so quickly, right? We were talking about ChatGPT just a couple months ago being the bleeding edge. Then GPT-4 came out, and then Auto GPT came out, and there's already spawn-offs and random things coming from that. So the minute there is a course, and think about this, so to develop a course, unless it's again written by AI, it's going to take you a month or more of really dedicated putting it together, filming it, developing all the coursework, getting it online. I wouldn't trust anything that just came out like Master Midjourney right that's right now, because it's probably useless. So yeah, YouTube videos and Twitter right now seem to be the way, or cases like this, podcasts, where people are talking about at least bigger theories and in-depth discussions on those things. Because probably, and you and I talked about this, we're not the type of forum where we're going to walk you through step by step on how to set up Auto GPT and the things to do about it. But we like talking at a higher level and maybe more of a in-depth level about the implications and use cases to really kind of inspire somebody to go out and try that and then put their own spin on stuff. So it's really cool. But to get back to my original kind of thought on this stuff, so I've been very manual in how I do all my learning for the most part. I read or I listen. I write notes as I'm going. I love doing audiobooks when I walk, and I'll constantly pop open my Notion on my phone and type in anecdotes and things that I listen to and things that resonated to me. So I end up with these Notion documents of just kind of random stuff, and sometimes I will go back and reference them, but I was finding even some of the like learning books around sales or entrepreneurship or all these different things that I've gone really deep into, almost copying the books verbatim because there were so many good nuggets into them, just like transcribing them. I don't retain that stuff. I forget all about it. And so I was thinking about how can I use some of these new tools, because Notion itself has an AI agent. You have ChatGPT now. We have Bing, which surprisingly I found out today is built into Edge now. So you can have a
Mm-hmm.
little sidebar pop out and you use essentially GPT-4 and Bing. So maybe they'll get me to get off Chrome. I doubt it, but we'll see.
They're trying hard.
Um, so there was just a few things that I've been doing. So one of the best things that I love is the ability, of course, to search and reference things. So that was in Notion kind of beforehand. But with the tools that we can use in AI, you can have it summarize all of your bullet points and all your notes for you. And I do this a lot in Chat GPT, and where you can choose the length of how long you want it to summarize something for. So if I only want a one paragraph summary on the whole book, I can have that. If I want in-depth notes, if I want to take the main highlights or different things like that, it can pull it. It can pull it just from my notes, or depending on what platform you're using, go out to the web, especially if it's a classic book or something, and pull key things maybe that I didn't understand. Another thing that Notion does really cool is it can build action items based off your notes. I don't know if you've done this yet, Wyatt, where if a book, let's say it's a business book, and you want to try to implement it. So let's say that you're really into learning about business development, for example. You can have it create action items based off of what notes you took, so it can make sure that you are, setting up a weekly call list, having some physical reminders, all these things that the practices the book actually talks about. You can have it kind of set up for you. And I imagine this kind of thing is going to get integrated with Microsoft Office. And so all of a sudden your to-dos and Outlook or things might actually be super powerful. But the biggest things that I've been using a lot is diving down rabbit holes of brainstorming. I've been using this a lot to use the AI to kind of give me different perspectives on things that I can do, which is brilliant because not most of the time I'm alone. And I love like bouncing ideas off you or with my friends or different things, but I don't always have that. And to almost have an outsider perspective on how to think about certain concepts that I've gotten from these books or these courses or these videos has been absolutely crazy. Expanding on thoughts. So I'll be writing out certain things. I'm like, hey, write the next paragraph of this, and it'll actually do, and it can kind of spur me to get a little bit farther through. And then the biggest thing, of course, is just explaining stuff where maybe there's a certain type of word or an event they reference. This is the problem with me and my little ADHD mind, where they'll be talking about some moment in history. I'm like, ooh, what's that place? What else happens in here? And you can dive down the rabbit hole of understanding on maybe who this scientist is, or this historian, or this event, this battle, or this town, and you can get a much broader understanding of the context around whatever you're reading. So I've been going down these things too. And the biggest thing is I can do it quickly. It's not like I'm going on a tangent for hours and then never coming back to the main piece of content. It's almost like you can do a Google search, but all the information is just right there for you in that quick summarization. You don't have to start hunting and watch the next YouTube video and the next YouTube video or read the next article. It's more like, no, what is this? What is the key takeaway from this? And then pull it back. How does that actually go work with what I've been reading or what I'm talking about? And it's just been so crazy to use just very basic things that are coming today. I don't know. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're on a different journey with AI than I am. Um, I am I'm neck deep in business AI right now. For example, we've talked about this. My role is in process improvement, which is cutting out waste. And I was doing this thing where I was kind of creating some generic prompts based off of job descriptions, just to experiment, kind of pilot with, if I was a developer, what would be some common prompts that would be beneficial? If I was a product owner, business analyst, blah, 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 blah. And I was coming up with some awesome stuff. I was like, oh man, if I was one of these people, I'd be killing it with these prompts. And then I got to my own job description, and it suddenly dawned on me that I drew a blank. I was like, I don't see how AI could help my job. And I kind of had to slap myself in the face and look at my own. I don't know the word for it, but there's kind of this curse of knowledge bias that I have
Yeah,
going
you're
on.
too close to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. For business analysts, and I could create prompts, and I could tell you how AI is going to transform every job in the world except my own. And I had to kind of sit back and evaluate my thought process with this, because there's no way that I have the only job in the world that can't be influenced by AI. In fact, my job is exactly that, identifying patterns, reducing unnecessary tasks and etc. AI is built for that. But I'm much more in the business case sense right now, but it's developed some really cool things. Keeping this a little generic here, we've already proved a use case utilizing ChatGPT version 3, not even 4, version 3, that will turn a 3-month-long task into about 20 minutes. I'm that kind of result would earn me the biggest bonus of anything in a company. If I went in as a process improvement and specialist or whatever, and I turned a 3-month task into 20 minutes, they would put me on a chair with a crown and make me, an instant VP of the company with that kind of savings. It's massive. And that was using GPT-3, which is now outdated. And but the concept blew my mind. So I'm battling with this amazing use case. We can use it for so many things, the savings, the elimination of unnecessary non-value add things, and then also dealing with my own bias in my own career and my own knowledge base. So I don't know. My experience is I'm kind of battling this dichotomy in my head right now. So that was kind of a word vomit, but I've been thinking about this a lot.
Yeah. Well, in your case, it is how can you use AI to be a consultant in itself, right? How it can parse those information. And I guess the journey that I've been just personal journey into that, I've also been looking at how can I use that as like a mentor or a counselor or a teacher, someone to help guide me because like you're saying, I'm often far too close to the subject. I don't understand where I might be too tunnel visioned in on something or blind to these spots and things like that. So one thing that I kind of mentioned just a little bit earlier, but I found a prompt within ChatGPT that let you kind of put in what your skills are, what your values are, and then it based off the concept of ikigai, which you turned me on. What explain that to the audience if you could?
Ikigai is a concept, the meaning of your reason for being. And it's usually a 4-piece Venn diagram that consists of what we love, what the world needs, what we can pay for, and what we're good at. And I know those feel like very 4 weird random categories, but those Venn diagrams, what they break into 4 separate pieces of your life that define your values and what you're good at and what you want and what can ultimately bring you happiness. It creates your mission, your vocation, your professions, your passions, your hobbies. And in the middle, all of these random Venn diagrams meet into your ikigai, which is your reason for being. I haven't done this exercise and I don't expect you to share yours because it can be a personal journey, but it's kind of a root cause process of digging down to what's really valuable in your life and using that to set your direction. So after that long-winded response, how did you utilize AI for the ikigai?
Yeah, so first of all, the exercise I did was not that deep. So
Sure.
definitely with your explanation, you want to take some time to probably really go through these, but I just did a high level
Mhm.
things of like what I'm interested in, what I'm good at, and based on that and using those concepts, it gave me brainstorm prompts of just different things that you could try out. So you could try it as perfect. You could do professions, or you could say, I want to do something as a evening activity. And it gave me a list of all sorts of stuff. And none of it was perfect or anything, but a lot of it actually kind of aligned to this podcast. So it was onto something. There was a spark
Mm.
there. And again, AI as it stands right now, you're only going to get as good of a result based upon the prompts and the information you put into it. So I know that I didn't give it the best information at this time, but it just got me thinking about if you can use these tools as well as some other stuff to at least identify your goals and interests are going to be a big thing. And what it can do really, really well is help kind of build like a lesson plan or a personalized learning plan for everything. And this is where like Bing especially is probably exceptionally good because it can scour the internet right now. And you can say, all right, I really am interested in, let's say starting a podcast. So what are the things that I need to learn to go there? And it can write out all sorts of steps and all sorts of things that you need to go through and learn. You can build that out into action items, get your books, get everything going, document all those things, and just keep expanding, keep kind of falling down the rabbit hole, but all while trying to actually like make progress, create things, get some sort of like social proof or validation through it all. And so that's one of the deals where it's like you don't just want to read for reading's sake. You don't just want to consume, because that gets back to, you're never going to get anywhere. But you can use this to kind of guide you and keep you on a course, something that, again, a counselor might have done in the past or a coach might have done. And you can build even like these weird little scorecards in doing those things too, to input what you've done and give you suggestions on what to do or maybe what to do better. It's pretty crazy just having these sandbox of things that you can create yourself and not necessarily a specific platform developed for that task.
I think you hit on something there that we need to really make aware. AI as it is today, for the most part, there are a couple exceptions. For the most part, AI is based off of your prompt, and there is a there is a massive world right now popping up online about AI prompts. Search AI. Here we go. I got Google pulled up right now. Let's see how many. Let's just do Chat GPT prompts. I found how many results? 96 million results. Just a few. 96 million results for ChatGPT prompts, because it's the language, it's the understanding. What makes it special is how it interprets your weird prompts. But another factor that I think is becoming really prominent and well used, and it's similar to how you use Notion. I use Notion as well. You turned me on to it, and I've never looked back. But it has the ability to act as a database, and this is not just the free version of ChatGPT. Don't get me wrong, there's differences, but it has the ability to access a database where you can throw information into this random database, and it just stores it back there, and then you can ask for it later in the weirdest way. Say for some reason you took a picture and the recipe of every meal you ever ate and just threw it into ChatGPT. You inserted it into it. A month later, you go down the road and be like, hey, how many grams of sodium did I eat last month? It'll do that math for you based off of what you did and what you input. And I think that's one of those weird cases I read about today where every single day we're learning about new capabilities and new ways to utilize that. And I really like how we have kind of differing viewpoints at the moment, not viewpoints, but use cases. Is you're using it for your own personal ikigai, your reason for being, your books, summarizing that, and I'm like, how many man hours can we save if we reduce process X? But at the end of the day, it's exactly what we said last week, Tanner. You've got to get in it and play in it. And I have met so many people over the last week, probably, that have told me that they have zero interest in. They'll never log in. They'll never use it. Not going to do that. And what do you think is going to happen? We are seeing a small division right now in AI, but you know who's not on the side of I'll never log in? Is businesses, right? Being Google, everyone has an AI clone of some sort in the works. And if you are in a business and you're not actively investigating it, you're wrong and you're already behind. So it's so prolific and so fast and mind blowing. Today, I turned to one of a senior individual in my company. I turned his resume into as written by Snoop Dogg, just to show the capabilities.
Yeah, I did that with translated into a 5-year-old can understand it.
Love it.
It
Yeah,
was hilarious.
had him howling. It's so fun to see. And the day before, that person was like, "This is gonna take over the world and destroy everything," and now he thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of like you said, being afraid of it, but the ignorance and understanding what it is and what it isn't, but also on the vice versa, understanding of where it could go.
Sure.
So, I mean, we're definitely in the point where like AI is a baby right now. Before it was maybe just some embryo, and that was social media and targeted ads and all these things, the
Hmm.
supercomputers pointed at us. And then now it's born to a certain sense. And we're not talking about AGI or, the it being sentient or any of those things, but its capabilities are pretty crazy right now. But I feel like it's not even at the stage where it's learning how to crawl. And we're getting to this point where it is growing up so quickly. And what is the world going to look like when it learns to crawl and learns to walk and learns to talk and
Hmm.
learns to do all these tasks and things? What does adolescence look like for AI? What is its teenage years? Oh my God, if it was rebellious, you got to keep it in check by before then. But
How
we're
entertaining that would
just
be. I hope we don't get moody AI.
right. But we just, I don't know. There's this, I'm seeing from a lot of people, they just don't know much about it. And then the moment, like you were saying, you show them something that could benefit them, they're all in. And I actually did this today where I did a little hour long Teams call with our division here at my company that I work for. And I had multiple people messaging me after and they're like, oh my gosh, I took something that took me 20 minutes and brought it down to 5 minutes. And that was their first time trying it. So they're going to get more proficient as they get doing it more and more. And you have the ability to probably just through basic stuff, having individual contributors themselves with this tool make themselves 2 to 3 times more productive. You add in somebody like you who can then find systems that are, like you said, 2 months into or 3 months into 20 minutes. It's crazy in where we're going to go, and it's going to be super disruptive. And so I'm embracing it as much as I can. I welcome our new insect overlords. I keep saying that um, because there is no other real alternative at this point. It's not like it's going to get shut down, and it is going to be a world of have and have nots. So I'm wanting to use it in my career, and I'm wanting to figure out in my personal life, and then I'm also figuring out, just like with all technology, when to detach and then try to find the real world too.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I think we've kicked that dead horse. Get on ChatGPT now. But if you are not a technically advanced person, I'm not me. How can people learn? Say you log into ChatGPT right now, first time ever. The person saw your presentation, Tanner, and jumped in. What would you recommend? Where do you start? Where do you begin with the greatest thing that's happened since the invention of the computer?
So the first thing I would do is look for other people who are interested in it. And first, actually, like ask around in your local groups, your work, your community, your friends, your family, see who's actually using it. Because the experimentation, I feel, is by far the most power. You can go on search online and YouTube and these places, learning like the foundations of how to prompt. ChatGPT is really cool, where especially version 4 with GPT-4, giving it a role and letting it run as whatever, whether that's a consultant, or you can have it role play as characters and all sorts of different things, and give it goals and processes and certain outputs and tones and what format you want things in. You can be very specific on those things, and eventually you'll learn just through trial and error how to get the results that you want based off those things. But I'm really finding that because it's evolving so quickly, and that just embedding yourself within a bunch of people using it and experimenting with it is going to yield by far the best results. Because you're thinking in your bubble right now, I'm thinking in my bubble, but there's all these people that are tangential to you that will also find all sorts of use cases that you've never even thought of, and maybe you don't use it verbatim, but you're like, oh, I can apply that here. And it's so neat. So yeah, that would be my first thing, to be honest with you. I would tell anybody that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Experimentation is the way, and especially in GPT-4, but 3 as well. Um, I did find a fascinating tip today, and it makes sense. Might make some of those who are on the edge of being comfortable with it a little more uncomfortable, but treating it like a conversation usually builds better results. When you're experimenting, you're seeing what it can do, saying, hey, will you do this? I even see people who ask it please and thank you, uh, saying it out loud. I realize that could make some people uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, the more conversational you can make it, the more your prompts don't have to be some crazy written out, thought out spiel that has the exact perfect characters and blah blah blah. Just having a conversation and kind of preloading the system with what you want to do. And at the end of the day, the greatest tool to learn how to use ChatGPT is ChatGPT. You can
Yeah.
ask it.
Have you heard of chat.ai yet?
No,
Or
what's
not
that?
chat, I'm sorry, character.ai. My
I
apologies.
don't think so.
So this is it's a chat bot. And what it can do is it has different personas and it can emulate certain people of history and you just have a conversation with them.
That'd be cool.
So it'll let you do some variety things. So you can practice interviewing, you can practice new languages, you can play games with these things. It's just all sorts of different options. You can write a story with it, but also you can just talk to, you know, Elon Musk if you wanted to, or who else do they have? They have a psychologist on here. They have Tony Stark, so you can talk to Iron Man.
Kanye West,
Yeah, Saul
Alan
Goodman,
Turing.
Socrates, and then you just have a
That's so cool.
conversation and it responds as though they're that character. And I know ChatGPT does something, but I think this is a little bit more finely tuned, perhaps. I'm not sure. But
This is so cool. I'm going to play with this later. Oh my
think
gosh.
about that. You could have a conversation with Socrates. You
Mm-hmm.
could learn, you know, his foundational knowledge and things
Yeah.
from somebody from that perspective. So how
So,
different is that
yeah.
compared to just reading it through a book or listening to a lecture from a teacher?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually really funny. So, um, shout out to my mom. If she listens to this, she does listen to this. Actually, she's a sweetheart. Um, she's going back to school, and my mom is in her 60s, and she's going back to college this week. And she's studying psychology, and I'm very proud of her. This is awesome. Something she's always wanted to accomplish. I haven't had this discussion with her yet, but I keep thinking in the back of my mind is, okay, higher education on the cusp of AI just coming out. What does it look like? I wish I could be a fly on the wall in her classes, with her professors, and I don't wish I was in those classes because I feel like I'm done with school. But personally, I look at college and think, wow, what if this tool had existed? And I'm not talking about cheating. I'm not talking about it having it write your papers. That's a debate that I don't know anyone's ready to have yet, how we manage that. And it's already becoming a problem. But the ability, see, high school and college has they're different. And what I mean by that is in high school, you're expected to learn a set curriculum. Maybe you can expand upon that knowledge a little bit through some, report writing. But for the most part, you're on a very guided path till you graduate, at least in the United States. Uh, Higher education, the purpose behind it is there's a baseline knowledge and you're supposed to build upon that knowledge, especially the higher you get up into your master's and your doctorate. You're not just there to regurgitate information that people have been learning for 2000 years. You are there to build upon that human knowledge. And it's really created this fascinating thought in my head about how this will look in the future with AI. And the concept and this what you're talking about here, this character.ai, the ability to I got on this thought path because I saw in that character.ai you could talk with Sigmund Freud, and I know he's kind of the butt of many jokes nowadays, but at the end of the day, the guy did set the foundation for psychology as it is today. And my mom could go into this, my mom in her 60s could go onto this website and ask Sigmund Freud questions, and that's amazing. How can you not view that as just simply an amazing achievement by man? And it's really cool.
Well, the thing is, she can do it, and she can do it essentially for free. So you're talking with higher education, it's going to be so disruptive, not just because of the questions around how they measure knowledge, like because currently it's a lot of papers and testing and theses and those things, which is going to be completely disrupted by these tools. But the amount that they cost is astronomical, and especially now that remote schooling is so prevalent, they're really going to have to evaluate what their value they're bringing for what they're charging off those things. And no, I agree. I've been thinking about this quite a bit, where it's not just higher education, it's high school, but it's also elementary school. So much of what we talk about on this podcast is, you can start a business from anywhere, or you can live anywhere and do the things, but there's real disadvantages at times around being in a rural area too. I heard the term, what was it, geographically disadvantaged, and it's a real thing in terms of like what job opportunities are out there, but also potentially the quality of schooling that you can get. And the same holds true for rural areas, or maybe inner cities, or you might be in a great town, but just depending on what teachers and things are available can dramatically change the quality of your education. So I'm really excited for the possibility of customized education. We talked a lot last week about the ability for AI to fine tune, let's say, sales messaging. And I feel like that's probably what AI is mostly going to be used for, is just serving us better ads and selling us more things. And that's the cynic on me. But can you imagine that your curriculum, your knowledge, whatever you're being taught for that moment in school of whatever age, is what you need. It's slightly more advanced than where you're at, but not too far to where you can't comprehend it. But it's also not so it's challenging enough that it brings you value, but it's not so easy that you're not getting anything from it. Because when I was in school, the teachers always kind of teach to the median. And so you would have people that were left behind because they couldn't understand it, and you had people that were bored. And a lot of times it was a mix of the people depending on the subject. So I was really good at English and reading and those things and math, but there was other classes that I just fell apart on. And if you can have this curriculum almost be like a personalized teacher plus a personalized tutor, man, that brings so much value. What is schooling going to look like?
It's a great point. Outside of the debate of plagiarism, and let's take that argument and throw it away, because people are going to be debating that and just into the ground, and I don't want to deal with that. Exactly as you said, homework. This is not only does AI, the difference between AI and Google. Let's start there. Google search. The difference between AI and Google is you type in a math problem into Google, it'll give you the answer. You type it into AI and then ask it to explain it, and it'll tell you step by step, this is how I did it. I was garbage at algebra. I failed college algebra twice. I didn't take it in high school. I was a math just idiot. And it was the most painful experience of my life trying to get over that, because I needed it. And really, there were many times in my life I can think back all the way into elementary school when I knew I was falling behind in math. You know, I was where it wore on me emotionally, right? And now I could open a phone, which didn't exist when I was in elementary school, and have a personal tutor and explain concepts to me. And if I didn't understand what they were saying, I'd say, hey, can you simplify that? Break it down to some bullet points. And I could shape it into the way that my brain understood. And that would have been so much better for my personal learning journey. And because you're spot on, Tanner. And I think any educator in the world, I have many of them in my family, would agree that the education system is a pretty cookie cutter system, and people fall behind, and some people get ahead. And you're spot on. This could be a tool for the good and can make people smarter. It's not just there to replace people. It can make you better.
100%. Well, think about it too. So the way you learn is probably different than the way I learn. So even though we're similar age, you know, especially growing up, you'd assume we're relatively similar skill levels. I am very visually oriented. I've always been art, drawing since a very early age. If you could teach me, have the curriculum teach me things through imagery and storytelling and those visuals, and have me create things to show that I understood it visually rather than writing it through reports and stuff, I probably would have comprehended significantly better. And you have people, with dyslexia and all those things that can be fine tuned for those things. And then you would also have people who are more reader or technical or understand things better if it's formatted in these ways. All of that could be tailored so specifically to the person that you would kind of, just like we're talking about with these business systems, maximize efficiency and output for
Mhm.
each of the people. So you can have that all levels.
Mhm.
And then what are you going to learn in college, I guess? You probably have been figuring it out the whole way.
Yeah, yeah. The concept can be intimidating, but you bring up a good point. I am dyslexic. That's why I had such difficulties with math, or at least part of it. I was probably also a pretty lazy child. But anyways, no, I am dyslexic, and AI, they don't. There's no judgment when you talk with AI. It is very matter of the fact, and I ask for this, it produces this, and you can dig deeper down if you want to, or you don't have to. And it's a tool that um, you don't have to have perfect spelling, you don't have to have perfect grammar, punctuation, all that stuff doesn't matter because ChatGPT is smart enough to understand what you're trying to get at. And once again, the concept of having a tool that can teach you literally anything you wanted to know at any level you wanted to know, tailored to your specific learning without judging you for any disabilities or anything that you may or may not have. This is the future of education, and it's bright. It's good. I think people look at AI and say we're going to become just dumb idiots who float around on chairs like in Wall-E. I disagree. Higher education is going to change. Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't need to go to college anymore for some jobs because, well, there's you can type in a prompt and it'll tell you how to do it or something like that. Yeah, there'll always be doctors and lawyers and stuff like that, but education's going to change.
There
But
might not be
I just don't.
lawyers.
That's absolutely that's a great point. I read you sent me
Mhm.
that article about the lawyer, and
Same with
things that it
accountants
can
and
do. Finances, finance is a big thing. If your skill set relies on recognizing patterns in logic, AI can do that too, and probably better.
yeah. So I want to
But
get your opinion on this part here. So I've been thinking about this too. So there was a meme going around for a long time, and I believed it, where they talked about how they developed our school system to work with old school American factories. They like would ring bells and do all this thing to get people to used to their work hours. Well, apparently that's all garbage. I found out, and so I did a little digging using AI too. And so our school system is built off of what's called the Prussian model. So it uses compulsory attendance, centralized curriculums, standardized teacher training, separation of grades by age, for example, these things. And it was all developed in like the early 19th century. So even kind of before pre industrialization, really their whole goal was just to instill a sense of unity for the country and make sure people were educated. And I mean, it's a really neat thing, but we're using this super outdated model. And I kind of suspect that, everyone was talking about, oh, the workforce emulated education, but really it's probably had these people being educated in a certain way, and the workforce probably adapted to that. But now we're seeing this paradigm shift where in work, everything's happening remotely, very decentralized. It's happening, a lot of jobs happen with flex hours. So you aren't, get your work done at your when you can. I could really see how work today could actually influence how schooling happens. Because if you are trying to use schooling to prepare people for the workforce, our current system does not, our current school system has no mirroring to what the world really is going to look like. So what do you think school could look like?
I think this is going to make homeschooling a much more viable option for lots of people. So we
Hmm.
talk about that geographically disadvantaged, the decentralized, the basis of our podcast, if you will. Those individuals who may not live in a massive metropolitan area. For example, Tanner, I'm sure you're aware, there are schools closing in Southwest Nebraska left and right. Schools combining, there's not enough students, schools have to close, they don't have enough funding. It's covered in asbestos. Who knows? Schools close all the time in small town America. Happens everywhere. Schools combine. I think there's a current school uh, like 14 miles north of where I graduate high school. That's like a combined 4 schools now, I think. Hayes Center and all of them. They're just, there's no one there anymore. The population's so small they can't sustain it. So I'm going on a tangent. I see this become making homeschooling a much more viable option. What I mean by that is outside of, you know, you can buy programs online that kind of run you through a curriculum of some sort for homeschooling, or you can do your own, which, you know, neither here nor there. That's for some people. This opens the world. If you really want it, the world is now at your fingertips, more so than with Google, more so than with just the internet, more so with having a computer in your home. Literally, I can have a conversation with Sigmund Freud and learn about his passions, that, you know, and his concepts. And that's going to allow for a curiosity in a child that is our current school system's not able to do. Children are curious. They get excited over strange things sometimes. They go on tangents. And school systems, like you said right now, it's not that they don't want to encourage that. It's just that they can't. They have a curriculum. They have a schedule. They have these things. We have this check boxes to meet our accomplishments. I think AI is going to allow for a lot more freedom and creativity and excitement in some weird niche things, which is great. That spawns passion at an early age. I can see that being a much more viable source for that information.
I agree. And if you are wanting to do within a traditional school too, like we're talking about, one of the things that in the old way of doing it, again, it was breaking people up by age, but we all develop at different paces, right? And so it's girls develop faster than boys at younger ages, so they have better chances of excelling at certain parts of school, while boys can have a tendency to kind of fall behind. But also, young boys are just wild and crazy and have a
Yep.
lot of energy and
Sure.
need to do those things. But also, if we're talking about the workforce and your thing, we when we go into a career, we're not broken up into age groups. We work with people of all sorts of ages. So why in schooling couldn't you have, more diverse brackets of kids of all ages to commingle on certain projects and work together and mentor each other and do things, as well as have very specified individual learning to make sure they get the fundamentals. And that could really teach you how to interact in groups, your communities, your all sorts of things, rather than just, again, sitting at a desk and doing your work.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has a ton of possibility. And then you wouldn't have to worry about having, oh, this class is small. Our first grade class is too small compared to the second. There's not enough, but you could have a larger pool to where at least communities could really support the kids that they have. And then it gives a lot of opportunities, I think, too, for teachers, because you could spend more time with students in on a personal level and really guide, mentor them, and worry less about standardized testing. I know that was such a huge thing in schools, especially lower income schools and things like that, where when No Child Left Behind came out, they just taught to the testing. And I was like right on the end of that. I was in high school when all the standardized testing came through. And I remember that we just studied the tests. I didn't really learn anything. Everything that I learned in high school, I was very self taught on. And I was
Mm-hmm.
always like learning 3D animation and how these 3D render shaders worked and basics of programming and all these things I had to learn on my own because there wasn't anything in school. But now, moving forward, I think anyone who could have the opportunity to learn anything at a much earlier age and reach their potential a lot quicker,
Mm-hmm.
which is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And again, just kind of going back to college, I really don't see how they stand today is ever going to stand up. Who's going to pay for that
Mm.
education that you can never get rid of that debt? you can you're always going to be to it with a piece of
Yeah.
paper for a career that may or may not exist here in a few years. Because that's the scary part, right? Leaving school and having tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Say you're
Mm-hmm.
a lawyer, and then you're facing the barrel of this gun that's AI that can do things way better. I
Yep.
sent you, I think, in our group chat, it was an actual attorney who was figuring out, kind of like what you're doing, how he can automate most of his job away, and he can do it so darn good at these baby step levels. It's wild.
Well, all right, Tanner. What else? What else are we thinking? What are some resources? What are you looking at specifically right now? If someone's dabbling, and I'm having a lot of conversations about AI. A good portion of them hate it and never want to talk about Terminator, and some of them are like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of it," and then some of them are like, "Yeah, I've played with it." Where are you learning right now? Twitter, I understand, and you can start diving into those algorithms pretty easy in the searches. But you sent me some sites earlier, and where else are you seeing stuff?
So there was it learnprompting.org is a really good resource just to kind of go through the basics. I would probably just start there. Do some base YouTube searches. Look for what has a decent amount of views and is recent. And the same goes with Twitter or Reddit threads or any of those things. Find whatever's been within the last, I don't know, week to month. And those are probably the resources to have now because I'm just going to use Midjourney as an example. They're already on version 5. So all the stuff that version 4 hit got changed with version 5 and how they do their weighting and figuring out things. So these things are changing so quickly. But more than you needing to be on the bleeding edge of it, I feel like, and you said it earlier, just jump in, think about what you can use. Like, what is something in your life right now? Let's say your job that you just kind of have to do all the time. You don't like doing it. It's very formulaic. See if that AI can help you do that better. And then just taking another step, what is something that you enjoy doing and would like to do it better? See if that can assist you in that journey. And it doesn't have to do everything. And that's the biggest thing. Like, keep some stuff to you. Like, I don't want it to help me draw, better per se, because I just enjoy drawing and I would much rather learn from peers who I know and have that camaraderie. I'm sure it could do it, but for me, that's not a priority right now. But for things on my job, how to reach more clients or how to do it, not spend so much time documenting or writing certain jobs. I literally had this week, just as a proof of concept, had ChatGPT write me a book. And it was 53 pages. It wasn't great, but it was a hell of a starting point. And to be honest with you, most corporate books and most base stuff don't have a lot of substance in them. So I would say what it produced is probably in the, you know, middle part of a Venn diagram of quality of content of what's available out there. So, I mean, it's just something to play with right now and to keep on and just see how you can optimize your life because at least we're at the stage right now where we can use it as a really neat tool before we have to worry about some of the other crazy things potentially.
Yep, get in now, learn about it. Congress is going to learn about it someday, and God knows what the laws they're going to implement on it. But at the end of the day, laws, rules, whatnot, it's here to stay. Just play with it. If you truly believe that your life cannot be made better, let's start with your job. Let's start with your job. If you truly believe your professional life cannot be made better with ChatGPT, you're fooling yourself. I don't care what your job is. Farmer, consultant, whatever, ChatGPT can help you. If you think that you're better at it, you're wrong, because ChatGPT doesn't make this stuff up. They're collectively utilizing the knowledge that exists. But your personal life, I understand. Just be aware of it. That's all we would ask. I would hate to see someone left behind because of some misguided thoughts or misunderstandings about it. So get in there, play with it, dink around with prompts, have it talk to you like it's Snoop Dogg. It's hilarious. But all right, Tanner, take us home, man. This has been a great talk.
Yeah, no, again, I like having a conversation with you about these things because I don't want this podcast just to become the AI episode, and that's why
Right.
we have some really cool guests coming. But I even suspect every person that I talk to, even random people, ask me about ChatGPT, even if they
Yep.
don't, or any of these AI tools. It's kind of what's on the mind right now. But yeah, we have lots of really cool things coming. If you're made it this far in the episode, again, we really appreciate that you have listened. Make sure that you're subscribed, share with friends. post about it on social media, rate us 5 stars, all the fun jazz. I need to be a little bit better of a YouTube huckster, like and subscribe or any of those things and
Smash that
stuff.
like button. Pew, pew, pew,
Smash the like
pew.
button.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
But
we're not like that.
yeah.
But nonetheless, we really appreciate everyone who's listened to us. So we'll see you all next week.
Bye.